The charity gala sparkled with crystal chandeliers and designer gowns, but Jasmine felt like she was drowning in ice water. Across the crowded ballroom, she stared at the woman laughing too loudly at Tyler's jokes. The woman with perfectly styled blonde hair, a figure-hugging red dress, and most importantly, Jasmine's grandmother's antique wedding ring glittering on her left hand. Jasmine's legs felt weak. She gripped her champagne glass so tightly her knuckles turned white. That ring had been in her family for 3 generations. Her grandmother had worn it through 60 years of marriage. Her mother had treasured it until the day she died. And now it sat on the finger of a stranger who was clearly more than just Tyler's business partner. The woman leaned into Tyler, whispering something that made him throw his head back and laugh. His hand rested possessively on her lower back. They moved together like they had been practicing this dance for months, maybe years. Other guests glanced their way with knowing looks, the kind that said everyone knew except the wife. Jasmine set down her glass before she could drop it. Her hands were shaking now. 8 years of marriage, and this was how she found out. Not through a confession or even an argument. She found out by watching her husband flaunt his mistress at a public event, wearing the most precious thing Jasmine owned. She wanted to march over there and rip the ring off that woman's finger. She wanted to scream and cause a scene that would echo through the city's social circles for years. Instead, she stood frozen, watching the man she had loved since college act like she didn't exist. "Jasmine? You look pale." Her friend Nicole appeared beside her, concern written across her face. "Are you feeling sick?" Jasmine couldn't speak. She just pointed across the room where Tyler was now openly kissing the woman's cheek, right there for everyone to see. Nicole followed her gaze and gasped. "Oh honey. Oh no. That's my ring," Jasmine whispered, her voice barely audible over the orchestra music. "That's my grandmother's ring." The realization hit Nicole like a physical blow. He didn't. He did. Jasmine felt tears threatening, but she refused to cry in public. Not here, not in front of all these people who probably already pitied her. "How long do you think everyone has known?" Before Nicole could answer, Tyler looked across the room and locked eyes with Jasmine. For a moment, he had the decency to look guilty. His face went pale and he took a step away from the woman. But then the woman grabbed his arm, pulling him back, and Tyler made his choice. He turned away from his wife and continued his conversation as if nothing had happened. That was the moment Jasmine's heart truly broke. Not when she saw the ring or witnessed the intimate touches. It was when Tyler looked her in the eye and chose his mistress anyway. "I need to go home," Jasmine said, already moving toward the exit. "Wait, let me drive you," Nicole offered, hurrying to keep up. "No, I need to be alone." Jasmine didn't look back as she walked out of the ballroom, leaving behind the life she thought she knew. The drive home passed in a blur. Jasmine lived in autopilot, turning corners and stopping at red lights without really seeing anything. Her mind kept replaying the image of that ring on another woman's hand. Tyler had given away the most meaningful piece of jewelry she owned, a symbol of lasting love and commitment, to his mistress like it meant nothing. When she pulled into their driveway, Tyler's car wasn't there. Of course it wasn't. He was probably at that woman's apartment, explaining away what had just happened. Making excuses and promises. The same lies he had probably been telling for months. Jasmine sat in her car for 10 minutes, staring at the house they had bought together 5 years ago. They had planned to fill it with children and laughter. They had picked out paint colors and furniture, dreaming about their future together. Now it felt like a museum of broken promises. Inside, the house was too quiet. Jasmine walked through the rooms, seeing everything differently now. The family photos on the mantel seemed like lies. The wedding pictures made her stomach turn. Had Tyler been thinking about another woman even then? Had their entire marriage been a performance? She went to their bedroom and opened Tyler's dresser drawers, not sure what she was looking for. Evidence? More lies? In the back of his sock drawer, she found a credit card statement she had never seen before. The charges told a story she didn't want to read. Expensive restaurants she had never been to. Hotel rooms when he claimed to be working late. Jewelry stores where he had never bought her anything. The final charge was from 3 weeks ago. A jewelry cleaning service. He had taken her grandmother's ring to be professionally cleaned before giving it to his mistress. Jasmine sank onto their bed and finally let herself cry. Not gentle tears, but the kind of sobbing that comes from deep in your chest and leaves you exhausted. She cried for her marriage, for her trust, for the future she had been planning that would never happen. Most of all, she cried for her grandmother's ring, now sitting on the hand of a woman who didn't know its history or value. By the time Tyler came home 3 hours later, Jasmine had cried herself empty. She heard his car in the driveway, heard him fumbling with his keys at the front door. She stayed in the bedroom, listening to his footsteps on the stairs, preparing herself for whatever came next. "Jasmine?" His voice was cautious as he appeared in the doorway. "We need to talk." She looked up at him, this man who had been her husband for 8 years, and realized she didn't know him at all. "Do we?" Tyler stepped into the room, and she could smell another woman's perfume on his clothes. "Look, I know how that looked tonight." How it looked. Jasmine stood up, surprised by the steadiness in her own voice. "Tyler, you gave my grandmother's ring to your mistress. How exactly was that supposed to look?" He had the nerve to look defensive. "It's complicated." "No, it's really not." Jasmine walked to the window, needing distance between them. "Either you're married to me or you're not. Either you respect me or you don't. There's nothing complicated about it." "Jasmine, please let me explain." She turned back to face him, and for the first time in years she really saw him clearly. Tyler was handsome in a conventional way, the kind of man who looked good in family photos and at company parties. But there was something weak in his eyes, something she had been ignoring for too long. "Explain what? That you've been lying to me for months? That you took the most precious thing I own and gave it to another woman? That you humiliated me in front of half the city tonight?" Her voice was getting stronger with each word. "What exactly do you want to explain?" Tyler ran his hands through his hair, a gesture she had once found endearing. Now it just looked pathetic. "I never meant for you to find out like this." "How did you mean for me to find out? Were you ever going to tell me, or were you just going to keep living this double life forever?" He didn't answer, which was an answer in itself. "Get out," Jasmine said quietly. "What?" "Get out of this room. Get out of this house. I don't want to see you right now." "Jasmine, you're being dramatic. We can work this out." She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Work this out? Tyler, you gave my dead grandmother's ring to your mistress. You think we can work that out?" "I'll get it back," he said quickly. "I'll explain to Rebecca that it was a mistake." "Rebecca?" Jasmine repeated the name, tasting how bitter it was. "Is that her name?" Tyler realized his mistake too late. He had just confirmed what Jasmine already knew, but hearing him say the other woman's name out loud felt like another betrayal. "Just go," Jasmine said, turning back to the window. "Go to Rebecca's house. Go wherever you want. Just don't be here when I wake up tomorrow." She heard him hesitate, probably weighing his options. Then she heard his footsteps retreating down the hallway. A few minutes later, his car started in the driveway. Jasmine stood at the window and watched the taillights disappear down their street. In 8 hours, her entire world had collapsed. But strangely, as she stood there in the darkness, she didn't feel devastated anymore. She felt something else entirely. She felt free. Tyler didn't come home that night or the next. Jasmine spent the weekend alone in their house, moving through the rooms like a ghost. She called in sick to work on Monday, something she had never done unless she was actually ill. But heartbreak felt like sickness, didn't it? It made her stomach hurt and her head pound and her whole body feel heavy. On Tuesday morning, Tyler finally returned. Jasmine was in the kitchen making coffee when she heard his key in the lock. She had been expecting this moment, but her heart still started racing when she heard his footsteps in the hallway. "Jasmine?" He appeared in the kitchen doorway, looking like he hadn't slept much either. His clothes were wrinkled and he needed a shave. "Can we talk now?" She poured herself a cup of coffee with steady hands. "I'm listening." Tyler sat down at their kitchen table, the same table where they had eaten breakfast together every morning for 5 years. The normalcy of it felt surreal. "I want you to know that I never meant for any of this to happen," he began. Jasmine stayed standing, leaning against the counter. "But it did happen." "Yes." He looked down at his hands. "It started 6 months ago. Rebecca joined our company as a marketing consultant. We had to work closely together on the Henderson account, and we started having drinks after work. It was innocent at first. When did it stop being innocent?" Tyler shifted uncomfortably. 2 months ago. "But Jasmine, I want you to know that what I have with you is different. What we have is real." "Is it?" Jasmine took a sip of coffee, surprised by how calm she felt. "Because from where I'm standing, what we have is a lie. What you have with Rebecca seems pretty real though, considering you gave her my grandmother's ring. That was a mistake. I was going to give her something else, but she saw the ring in my jewelry box and asked about it. I panicked and made up a story about it being my grandmother's ring. Then she started hinting about wanting to wear it, and I didn't know how to say no without her getting suspicious about whose ring it really was." Jasmine stared at him. "So you gave away my most precious possession because you were too cowardly to tell your mistress the truth?" I know how it sounds. It sounds like you care more about her feelings than mine. Jasmine set down her coffee cup. Tyler, that ring was all I had left of my grandmother. My mother gave it to me before she died and made me promise to treasure it. And you gave it to your mistress to keep her happy. I'll get it back, Tyler said desperately. I'll tell Rebecca I made a mistake. What will you tell her? That you stole it from your wife? That you lied to her too? Jasmine shook her head. The damage is done, Tyler. Even if you get the ring back, I'll never be able to look at it the same way. Tyler stood up and tried to move closer, but Jasmine held up her hand to stop him. I want a divorce, she said. The words hung in the air between them. Tyler's face went white. Jasmine, please don't say that. We can go to counseling. We can work through this. Work through what? Your affair? Your lies? The fact that you humiliated me in public? The fact that you gave away something precious to me without even asking? Jasmine felt her composure starting to crack. Tyler, you looked me in the eye at that gala and chose her anyway. You made your choice. I choose you, he said quickly. I'm here, aren't I? I came home. You came home because you got caught. If I hadn't seen you with her, would you have ever told me? Tyler didn't answer, which was answer enough. I thought so. Jasmine walked to the kitchen window and looked out at their backyard. I called a lawyer yesterday. I'm filing for divorce. Jasmine, you're making a huge mistake. We've been together for 10 years, married for 8. You can't throw that all away because of one mistake. She turned back to face him. One mistake. Tyler, affairs don't happen overnight. You made the choice to betray me every single day for 6 months. Every time you lied about working late, every time you deleted text messages, every time you looked me in the eye and pretended to love me while you were sleeping with someone else. Those weren't mistakes. Those were choices. Tyler's face hardened. Fine. If that's what you want, then maybe we should get divorced. Maybe we're just not compatible anymore. Maybe we never were. The words came out before Jasmine could stop them, but once she said them, she realized they were true. When was the last time you asked me how my day was? When was the last time we had a real conversation about anything other than bills and schedules? When was the last time you told me you loved me without me saying it first? Tyler opened his mouth to answer, then closed it again. You can't remember, can you? Jasmine felt a strange sense of relief. We've been roommates for years, Tyler. We've been going through the motions of being married without actually being connected to each other. So this is all my fault? Tyler's tone was getting defensive now. You're going to pretend like you were the perfect wife? No, I wasn't perfect, but I was faithful. I was honest. I was here. Jasmine's voice got stronger. I was planning our future while you were planning your exit strategy. I wasn't planning an exit strategy. I love you, Jasmine. You love the idea of me. You love having a wife who takes care of the house and makes you look good at company parties. But you don't love me. If you loved me, you wouldn't have been able to betray me the way you did. Tyler stood up abruptly, knocking his chair back. You know what? Maybe you're right. Maybe I deserve someone who appreciates me instead of analyzing every move I make. Someone like Rebecca? Yes, someone like Rebecca. She doesn't question everything I do or make me feel like I'm walking on eggshells in my own house. Jasmine felt like she had been slapped, but instead of hurt, she felt anger rising in her chest. Then go to Rebecca. Pack your things and move in with her. But don't you dare try to make this my fault. I'm not trying to make it your fault. I'm just saying that maybe we both deserve to be with people who make us happy. Does she make you happy, Tyler? Does lying to her make you happy? Because you've been lying to her too, remember? She thinks you're available, but you're married. She thinks that ring belonged to your grandmother, but it's mine. Your whole relationship with her is built on lies. Tyler grabbed his jacket from the back of his chair. I don't have to listen to this. No, you don't. You can leave anytime you want. That's what you're good at, isn't it? Leaving when things get uncomfortable? Tyler stopped at the kitchen doorway. I'll be back for my things. I'll leave them on the porch. After he left, Jasmine sat down at the kitchen table and put her head in her hands. The conversation had gone better than she expected, but she still felt drained. 8 years of marriage, over in one kitchen conversation. But as she sat there in the quiet house, she realized something surprising. She didn't feel heartbroken anymore. She felt angry, yes. She felt betrayed and humiliated and hurt. But she didn't feel like her world was ending. Maybe it was beginning. That afternoon, she called her lawyer and scheduled an appointment for the next day. Then she called her boss and explained that she was going through a divorce and might need some flexibility over the next few weeks. Then she called Nicole and asked if she wanted to come over for dinner. How are you holding up? Nicole asked when she arrived that evening, carrying a bottle of wine and a bag of takeout Chinese food. Better than I expected, Jasmine admitted as they sat down in the living room. I think I've been mourning this marriage for longer than I realized. What do you mean? Jasmine thought about how to explain it. Tyler and I stopped being partners a long time ago. We were just two people living in the same house, going through the motions. I think part of me has been waiting for something to force a change. So you're not devastated? I'm devastated about my grandmother's ring. I'm devastated that I wasted 8 years with someone who could betray me so easily. But I'm not devastated about losing Tyler. Jasmine took a sip of wine. Does that make me a bad person? It makes you honest, Nicole said. And probably smarter than you realize. They spent the evening eating Chinese food and watching old movies, not talking about Tyler or Rebecca or divorce lawyers. For the first time in months, Jasmine felt like herself again. Not Tyler's wife or anyone's victim, just Jasmine. When Nicole left around 10 o'clock, Jasmine walked through the house, seeing it with new eyes. Without Tyler's presence, it felt bigger somehow. Quieter but not lonely. Peaceful. She went upstairs to their bedroom and opened Tyler's closet. His clothes still hung there waiting to be packed. But instead of sadness, she felt anticipation. Soon this would be her room, her space, her sanctuary. Tomorrow she would start the legal process of ending her marriage. It would be complicated and probably painful. But tonight, for the first time in months, Jasmine fell asleep feeling hopeful about the future. The law office of Sarah Chin, Esquire, was nothing like what Jasmine had expected. Instead of dark wood and intimidating leather chairs, the space was bright and modern, with plants in every corner and artwork that actually made her smile. Sarah herself was a petite woman in her 40s with kind eyes and a firm handshake. "Thank you for seeing me on such short notice," Jasmine said as she settled into a comfortable chair across from Sarah's desk. "Divorce can't wait for convenient scheduling," Sarah replied with a gentle smile. "Tell me what's going on." Jasmine had rehearsed this conversation in her head, but sitting here made it feel real in a way it hadn't before. "My husband has been having an affair for 6 months. I found out 3 days ago when I saw him with his mistress at a charity gala. She was wearing my grandmother's wedding ring." Sarah's eyebrows rose slightly. "He gave your ring to his mistress?" "Yes. It's been in my family for 3 generations. My mother gave it to me before she died." Jasmine's voice caught slightly on those words. "I want a divorce, but I'm worried about what I'll be entitled to. Tyler makes more money than I do and most of our assets are in his name." Sarah pulled out a legal pad and began taking notes. "Let's start with the basics. How long have you been married?" 8 years. "Any children?" "No." "Do you work outside the home?" "Yes, I'm a graphic designer for a marketing firm. But I only work part-time. Tyler wanted me to be available for family events and entertaining his clients." Jasmine realized how that sounded now. "I make about $30,000 a year. Tyler makes close to $200,000. Sarah wrote this down. "What about property? Do you own a home together?" "Yes, but it's in Tyler's name. He said it was better for tax reasons." Jasmine was starting to see a pattern she didn't like. Actually, most everything is in his name. The cars, the investment accounts, even our joint checking account is technically his with me as an authorized user. "I see." Sarah's expression was carefully neutral, but Jasmine could tell this wasn't good news. "What about retirement accounts?" "Tyler has a 401k through his company. I don't have one because I'm part-time." Jasmine felt her stomach sinking. "He said he was investing enough for both of us." Sarah set down her pen and looked directly at Jasmine. "I'm going to be honest with you. Your husband has structured your finances in a way that protects him and leaves you vulnerable. Whether he did this intentionally or not, it's going to make your divorce more complicated." "What does that mean exactly?" "It means we're going to have to fight for everything. The house, the retirement accounts, spousal support, everything." Sarah leaned forward. "But here's the thing, Jasmine. In this state, marriage is considered a partnership. Even if assets are in his name only, you're entitled to half of everything acquired during the marriage." Jasmine felt a small surge of hope. "Really? Really? The house, the cars, his retirement account, any investments, all of it? If it was acquired while you were married, half of it belongs to you." Sarah picked up her pen again. "Now tell me about this affair. Do you have any proof?" "I saw them together in public. Other people saw them too." "That's a start, but we'll need more. Text messages, emails, hotel receipts, credit card statements showing unusual charges." Sarah paused. "Do you have access to any of Tyler's accounts or devices?" Jasmine thought about the credit card statement she had found in Tyler's drawer. I found some statements that show charges to restaurants and hotels I've never been to. And he had my ring professionally cleaned before giving it to her. Perfect. Do you still have those statements? Yes. Good. We'll need copies of everything. Sarah made another note. What about witnesses to the affair? Everyone at the charity gala saw them together. They weren't exactly hiding it. Jasmine remembered the looks of pity from the other guests. My friend Nicole was there. She saw everything. Excellent. We'll need her to provide a statement. Sarah looked up from her notes. Jasmine, I want you to understand something. Your husband's affair, combined with the fact that he gave away your family heirloom, shows a pattern of disrespect and financial irresponsibility. That's going to work in our favor. How? Judges don't look kindly on spouses who give away marital assets to their paramours. That ring has sentimental value, yes, but it also has monetary value. By giving it to his mistress, Tyler converted marital property for his own benefit. Jasmine hadn't thought about it that way. So I might be able to get it back? We can certainly try. At minimum, he'll have to compensate you for its value. Sarah smiled. The fact that he had it professionally cleaned first actually helps us. It shows premeditation. For the first time since Saturday night, Jasmine felt like she might actually come out of this okay. What happens next? First, I need you to gather every financial document you can find. Bank statements, credit card bills, investment accounts, insurance policies, tax returns, everything. Make copies of anything that shows unusual spending or evidence of the affair. Jasmine nodded. Okay. Second, we file for divorce immediately. In this state, there's a mandatory waiting period, but we want to get the process started as soon as possible. How long does it usually take? If Tyler cooperates, we could have everything finalized in 6 months. If he fights us on the asset division, it could take a year or more. Sarah's expression grew serious. I should warn you, Jasmine. Divorces can get ugly, especially when there's money involved. Tyler might try to hide assets or claim that you're not entitled to as much as you think. What if he does? Then we fight back. I have forensic accountants who can track down hidden assets. I have investigators who can document his affair. I have 30 years of experience dealing with men who think they can cheat on their wives and keep everything. Sarah's smile was sharp now. Tyler picked the wrong woman to underestimate. Jasmine felt a flutter of excitement in her chest. You sound confident. I am confident. You have a strong case, Jasmine. Tyler committed adultery, gave away marital property, and structured your finances to benefit himself. Any reasonable judge is going to see that you've been taken advantage of. What about spousal support? Given the disparity in your incomes and the length of your marriage, you'll almost certainly be awarded alimony. The question is how much and for how long. Sarah consulted her notes. You've been supporting Tyler's career by working part-time and handling the domestic responsibilities. That's going to count in your favor. Jasmine left the lawyer's office feeling more empowered than she had in years. She had always let Tyler handle the finances because he was better with numbers, but now she realized that had been a mistake. She had let him make her financially dependent, probably without even realizing it herself. That evening she went through every drawer, every file cabinet, every box in their home office. She found bank statements going back 5 years, credit card bills that told the story of Tyler's double life, and investment accounts she didn't even know existed. The more she dug, the angrier she became. Tyler had been planning for his future while keeping her in the dark about their present. He had retirement accounts worth hundreds of thousands of dollars while she had nothing. He had been taking expensive trips with Rebecca while telling Jasmine they needed to budget more carefully. But the anger felt good. It felt powerful. For 8 years, she had been Tyler's accommodating wife, the woman who made his life easier without asking for much in return. Well, that woman was gone. The new Jasmine was going to fight for what she deserved. 2 weeks after filing for divorce, Jasmine found herself at the most awkward family barbecue of her life. Tyler's parents had invited her before they knew about the separation, and despite everything, she had decided to go. The Hendersons had always been kind to her, and she wanted to explain her side of the story before Tyler could spin it to his advantage. Jasmine, dear, you look wonderful, Tyler's mother, Patricia, greeted her with a warm hug. Tyler said you two were having some difficulties, but I'm so glad you decided to come anyway. Some difficulties. That was one way to put it. Thank you for having me, Patricia. The backyard was filled with Tyler's extended family, people Jasmine had been seeing at holiday gatherings for 8 years. She braced herself for uncomfortable questions and awkward silences, but most people seemed genuinely happy to see her. Jasmine. Tyler's cousin Lisa rushed over with a huge smile. I haven't seen you since Christmas. How's the graphic design business? It's going well, thank you. Jasmine was grateful for the normal conversation. I'm actually thinking about going full-time soon. That's exciting. You're so talented. I still have that logo you designed for my restaurant framed in my office. As they chatted, Jasmine noticed a man sitting alone at one of the picnic tables, nursing a beer and watching the family dynamics with amused detachment. He was older than most of Tyler's cousins, probably in his mid-40s, with salt and pepper hair and laugh lines around his eyes. He wore a simple polo shirt and jeans, but there was something about the way he carried himself that suggested success. Who's that? Jasmine asked Lisa quietly. Oh, that's Robert. Tyler's uncle, Harold's younger brother. He just moved back to town after his divorce was finalized. Lisa lowered her voice. Apparently his ex-wife took him for everything. He's staying with Harold and Margaret until he finds his own place. Jasmine felt a pang of sympathy. She knew what it felt like to have your world turned upside down by betrayal. Robert seems nice, she said. He is. He used to own a chain of restaurants before his ex-wife and her lawyer got their hands on it. Lisa shook her head. Some people have no shame. As if sensing their conversation, Robert looked over and caught Jasmine's eye. He raised his beer bottle in a small salute and smiled. The smile was warm and genuine, the kind that reached his eyes. Excuse me, Jasmine said to Lisa. I think I'll go introduce myself properly. She walked over to Robert's table, feeling oddly nervous. Mind if I sit down? I'm Jasmine, Tyler's wife. Well, soon-to-be ex-wife. Robert's eyebrows rose slightly, but his smile didn't falter. Robert Henderson, Tyler's uncle. And please sit. I could use the company of someone else who looks like they'd rather be anywhere else. Jasmine laughed despite herself. Is it that obvious? Only to someone who's been in similar shoes. Robert took a sip of his beer. Tyler's parents mentioned you two were separated. I'm sorry to hear that. Thank you. I heard about your divorce too. I'm sorry as well. Don't be. Best thing that ever happened to me, even if it did cost me everything I owned. Robert's tone was matter-of-fact, without bitterness. Sometimes you have to lose everything to realize what actually matters. Jasmine studied his face. You don't sound angry about it. I was for a while. Angry at her, angry at myself, angry at the whole situation. Robert leaned back in his chair. But anger is exhausting. At some point, you have to decide whether you want to spend your energy looking backward or moving forward. How do you do that? Move forward, I mean. One day at a time. One decision at a time. Robert looked at her thoughtfully. What's your story, if you don't mind me asking? Jasmine found herself telling him everything. About the affair, about her grandmother's ring, about feeling like she had wasted 8 years of her life. Robert listened without judgment, occasionally asking questions but mostly just letting her talk. So now I'm fighting for half of everything, even though most of it is in his name, she finished. My lawyer seems confident, but it's overwhelming. Good for you, Robert said firmly. Fighting, I mean. Too many people give up what they're entitled to because they're tired or scared or guilty. Were you guilty? About my divorce? Hell no. I did everything I could to save my marriage. I went to counseling, I changed my work schedule, I bent over backward trying to make my ex-wife happy. Robert's jaw tightened slightly. But she had already checked out. She was just waiting for the right time to take half my assets and move on to someone with more money. That must have been devastating. It was. But you know what the worst part was? I stayed too long. I kept trying to fix something that was already broken, kept making excuses for someone who didn't respect me. Robert looked directly at Jasmine. The biggest mistake I made wasn't marrying the wrong person. It was staying married to her after I knew she was wrong for me. Jasmine felt like he was speaking directly to her situation. How long did it take you to realize that? Too long. Years. Robert smiled ruefully. But once I figured it out, the divorce became easier. I wasn't losing a marriage worth saving. I was escaping a situation that was slowly killing my soul. Do you regret the time you spent trying to make it work? No, because it taught me something important. I learned the difference between fighting for someone and fighting for a relationship. When you fight for someone, you're trying to change them or convince them to value you. When you fight for a relationship, you're both working toward the same goal. Robert finished his beer. Tyler's not fighting for your relationship, is he? Jasmine shook her head. He's fighting for his right to keep his mistress and half our assets. Very different things. Exactly. Robert stood up and extended his hand. Come on, let's get some food before Tyler's cousins eat everything. And maybe you can tell me more about this graphic design business of yours. I might need some help with marketing materials once I get my new restaurant off the ground. They spent the rest of the afternoon talking about everything except their failed marriages. Robert was funny and intelligent, with stories from his restaurant business that had Jasmine laughing harder than she had in months. He asked thoughtful questions about her work and seemed genuinely interested in her answers. You should definitely go full-time, he said as they shared a piece of Patricia's famous apple pie. Anyone who can make a small-town diner look sophisticated enough for Food Network has serious talent. You saw Lisa's logo? I ate at her restaurant last week. That logo is the first thing you notice when you walk in, and it perfectly captures the vibe of the place. Elegant but approachable. Robert smiled. You have a gift, Jasmine. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. It had been so long since someone had complimented her work without any agenda behind it. Tyler used to praise her designs, but it always felt like he was patting her on the head for her little hobby. Robert talked to her like she was a professional whose opinion mattered. I should probably head home, Jasmine said as the sun started to set. Thank you for the conversation. It was exactly what I needed. Thank you for rescuing me from awkward small talk with relatives who want to know if I'm dating anyone yet. Robert walked her to her car. Would you like to have coffee sometime? As friends, I mean. It's nice to talk to someone who understands what it's like to start over. Jasmine hesitated. It felt too soon to be thinking about spending time with another man even as friends. But Robert wasn't another man exactly. He was someone who understood what she was going through, someone who could offer perspective without judgment. I'd like that, she said. Great. I'll get your number from Patricia. Robert opened her car door for her. Drive safe, Jasmine. And remember what I said about fighting for what you deserve. As Jasmine drove home, she felt lighter than she had in weeks. Not because she was interested in Robert romantically, but because he had reminded her of something she had forgotten. She was worth fighting for. Her dreams mattered. Her talent had value. Tyler had spent years making her feel like she was lucky to be his wife, like she should be grateful for whatever scraps of attention and affection he threw her way. But Robert had talked to her like an equal, like someone whose thoughts and opinions were worth hearing. Maybe that was what a healthy relationship was supposed to feel like. Not grateful and anxious, but valued and respected. When she got home, Tyler's car was in the driveway. Her good mood evaporated instantly. She had been hoping to avoid seeing him for at least another week. Inside, Tyler was sitting at the kitchen table with a stack of legal papers spread out in front of him. We need to talk, he said without looking up. I'm listening. Jasmine stayed in the doorway, not wanting to get any closer. My lawyer says you're asking for too much. Half the house, half my retirement fund, alimony. It's ridiculous, Jasmine. It's what I'm legally entitled to. Legally entitled to doesn't mean morally right. Tyler finally looked at her. I worked 60-hour weeks for 8 years to build what we have. You worked part-time and took care of the house. That's not the same contribution. Jasmine felt her anger rising, but she kept her voice level. I worked part-time because you wanted me available for your business dinners and client entertainment. I took care of the house because you were too busy to do it yourself. I supported your career at the expense of my own. Nobody forced you to do that. You're right. I chose to be a supportive wife. My mistake. Jasmine stepped into the kitchen. But I'm not going to let you rewrite history now. We were partners, Tyler. Partners share everything. Partners don't take half of everything when they leave. Partners don't cheat on each other either. Jasmine sat down across from him. Partners don't give away family heirlooms to their mistresses. Tyler's face flushed. I told you I'd get the ring back. Have you? Rebecca is being difficult about it. She thinks it was a gift. It was a gift. You gave it to her. Jasmine felt a familiar surge of rage. Just like you gave her 8 months of lies and promises. What did you tell her, Tyler? That you were going to leave me for her? Tyler didn't answer, which was answer enough. I see. Jasmine leaned back in her chair. So you were planning to divorce me anyway. You just wanted to do it on your terms, probably after you had hidden as many assets as possible. That's not true. Isn't it? You structured all our finances to protect yourself. You kept me financially dependent so I wouldn't be able to leave easily. You had an exit strategy, Tyler. I was just too trusting to see it. Tyler slammed his hand on the table. You're being paranoid. Not everything is some conspiracy against you. Maybe not. But this is. Jasmine stood up. You cheated on me, humiliated me, and tried to leave me with nothing. Well, it backfired. Now I'm taking half of everything, and there's nothing you can do to stop me. We'll see about that. Yes, we will. In court. Jasmine headed for the stairs. I want you out of this house by tomorrow, Tyler. My lawyer says I have the right to exclusive use of the marital home during the divorce proceedings. This is my house too. Not anymore. You made your choice when you moved in with Rebecca. Jasmine paused at the bottom of the stairs. Oh, and Tyler? When you see your family again, you might want to come up with a better story than, we're having some difficulties. Because everyone at that barbecue today could see exactly what kind of man you really are. She left him sitting at the kitchen table with his legal papers and went upstairs to run a bath. For the first time since this whole mess started, Jasmine felt like she was winning. 3 weeks later, Jasmine was sitting in a sunny art studio, surrounded by canvases and the smell of paint, feeling more like herself than she had in years. The divorce proceedings were moving forward. Tyler had moved out of the house, and she had finally taken Robert's advice about pursuing her passion. You have a natural eye for color, said Elena, the art instructor, as she looked over Jasmine's shoulder at the landscape painting taking shape on the easel. Have you considered taking some advanced classes? I'm thinking about it, Jasmine admitted. I used to paint all the time in college, but I stopped after I got married. I told myself I didn't have time, but really I think I just lost confidence. It happens more often than you'd think, Elena said kindly. Life gets in the way and we convince ourselves that our dreams aren't practical. But look at this. She gestured to Jasmine's painting. This isn't the work of someone without talent. Jasmine stepped back to look at her canvas with fresh eyes. She had been working on a view of the park near her house, trying to capture the way the morning light filtered through the oak trees. It wasn't perfect, but there was something alive about it, something that felt true. I forgot how good this feels, she said. Creating something from nothing? There's nothing quite like it. Elena cleaned her brush and smiled. You know, I teach private lessons too if you're interested in more intensive instruction. I might be. Jasmine was surprised by how much the idea appealed to her. Let me think about it. After class, Jasmine drove to the coffee shop where she had agreed to meet Robert. They had been having these informal coffee dates once a week since the barbecue, and she found herself looking forward to them. Robert was easy to talk to, and he never made her feel like she had to pretend to be okay when she wasn't. She found him at their usual table by the window, reading a newspaper and drinking what she knew was his third cup of coffee of the day. You're glowing, he said as she sat down. Art class was good? Better than good. I forgot how much I love painting. Jasmine accepted the latte he had already ordered for her. Elena thinks I should take private lessons. Elena sounds smart. You should listen to her. It's expensive though. And I'm trying to be careful with money until the divorce is finalized. Robert folded his newspaper and looked at her seriously. Jasmine, can I give you some advice? Of course. Don't wait to start living your life. I spent 2 years after my divorce being practical and responsible, putting off everything I wanted to do until I was more financially stable. You know what I learned? What? Life doesn't wait for you to feel ready. If painting makes you happy, find a way to make it work. Take the lessons. Buy the supplies. Invest in yourself. Robert leaned forward. You're going to get a settlement from Tyler. Use some of it to build the life you actually want. What if I'm not good enough to make a living at it? What if you are? Robert smiled. Besides, you don't have to quit your day job tomorrow. But you can start taking yourself seriously as an artist. You can start building towards something you care about. Jasmine had been thinking the same thing, but hearing it from someone else made it feel more possible. You're right. I've been playing it safe for so long, I forgot what it felt like to take risks. Tyler trained you to play it safe. He needed you to be predictable and manageable. Robert's tone was matter-of-fact, not accusatory. But that version of you was never real. It was just the version he wanted. How do you know so much about bad marriages? Because I was in one for 15 years. Robert laughed, but there was no humor in it. My ex-wife needed me to be successful enough to support her lifestyle, but not so successful that I threatened her control. She needed me to be devoted enough to be faithful, but not so confident that I would expect the same from her. She cheated too? Multiple times. But she was smarter about it than Tyler. She only got caught because she wanted to get caught. Robert stirred his coffee absently. Some people don't know how to leave relationships honestly. They have to burn everything down to justify walking away. Jasmine thought about Tyler and Rebecca, about the way they had been so obvious at the charity gala. Maybe Tyler wanted to get caught too. Maybe. Or maybe he just got careless because he stopped caring about your feelings. That stung, but it also felt true. Tyler had stopped being careful about her feelings long before the affair started. "Can I ask you something?" Jasmine said. "Anything. Do you ever miss being married? Not your ex-wife specifically, but the idea of having a partner." Robert considered the question carefully. "I miss the good parts. Having someone to share experiences with, someone who knows your history and your dreams. I miss having a teammate. But I don't miss the bad parts. The walking on eggshells, the constant negotiation, the feeling like I was failing at something I couldn't even define." Robert met her eyes. "I'd rather be alone than be with the wrong person again. I'd rather have real love someday than settle for convenient companionship." "Real love," Jasmine repeated. "Do you think that exists? The kind of love where you don't have to compromise who you are." "I do. My parents had it. My grandparents had it. It's rare, but it's real." Robert smiled. "And I think you deserve it, Jasmine. I think you deserve someone who celebrates your art, not someone who tolerates it. Someone who builds you up instead of keeping you small." Jasmine felt something flutter in her chest, something she hadn't felt in years. Not attraction exactly, but possibility. The possibility that there might be someone out there who could love her completely, without conditions or compromises. "I should probably figure out how to be alone first," she said. "Smart woman. Although I have to say, you seem to be doing just fine on your own." They talked for another hour about art and business and dreams. Robert told her about his plans for a new restaurant, something smaller and more personal than his previous chain. Jasmine told him about her idea for combining graphic design with fine art, maybe doing custom murals for businesses. "We should collaborate sometime," Robert said as they walked to their cars. "I'll need artwork for the new place and you'll need portfolio pieces." "Are you offering me a job?" "I'm offering you an opportunity. There's a difference." Robert opened her car door. "Jobs are about what other people need from you. Opportunities are about what you can create for yourself." Driving home, Jasmine thought about the difference between jobs and opportunities, between settling and choosing, between the life she had been living and the life she wanted to build. That evening she called Elena and scheduled private art lessons twice a week. She also called her boss and asked about transitioning to full-time employment. And she called Sarah Chen and asked about the timeline for her divorce settlement. "We should have the final decree within 6 weeks, Sarah told her. "Tyler's lawyer is still trying to negotiate the terms, but they don't have much leverage. The evidence of the affair is overwhelming, and the asset division is pretty straightforward under state law." "What about my grandmother's ring?" "Tyler claims Rebecca won't give it back voluntarily, so we'll have to get a court order. But we will get it back, Jasmine. Or he'll have to pay you fair market value plus damages." After she hung up, Jasmine sat in her living room and really looked around for the first time in months. This house had been Tyler's vision, decorated to his taste, organized around his needs. But it was hers now, at least temporarily, and she could do whatever she wanted with it. She started with the living room, moving furniture and taking down Tyler's collection of golf memorabilia. She hung some of her old paintings, pieces she had stored in the closet because Tyler said they didn't match the decor. By the end of the evening, the room looked completely different. Brighter, more colorful, more alive. It looked like her. For the first time since her marriage ended, Jasmine looked around her space and smiled. This wasn't the life she had planned, but it was starting to feel like the life she had always wanted. 2 months into her new routine, Jasmine had settled into a rhythm that felt natural and sustainable. She worked full-time at the marketing firm 3 days a week, took art classes twice a week, and spent her free time painting in the spare bedroom she had converted into a studio. The divorce was moving through the courts, Tyler was living with Rebecca, and Jasmine was discovering what it felt like to live for herself. Her coffee dates with Robert had evolved into longer conversations over dinner, walks in the park, and visits to art galleries. They were still officially just friends, but Jasmine was beginning to realize that her feelings for him were becoming more complicated. "This is incredible," Robert said, standing in front of her latest painting. She had invited him over to see her home studio, something she hadn't shown to anyone else. "Jasmine, this is museum-quality work." The painting was an abstract landscape, all flowing colors and emotional depth. She had been working on it for 3 weeks, losing herself in the process of creating something purely for the joy of it. "You think so?" She still struggled to believe in her own talent, years of Tyler's casual dismissal hard to overcome. "I know so. I've been to enough galleries to recognize real artistry when I see it." Robert turned to look at her. "You could have a show, Jasmine. People would pay serious money for work like this." "I'm not ready for that yet." "When will you be ready?" "When someone else gives you permission." Robert's tone was gentle but challenging. You're the only one who can decide when you're ready to take yourself seriously as an artist. Jasmine looked around her studio, at the canvases lining the walls and the easel positioned to catch the morning light. Sometimes I can't believe this is my life now. 6 months ago, I hadn't touched a paintbrush in years. 6 months ago you were living Tyler's life, not your own. Robert sat down in the old armchair she had moved up here for when she needed to step back and look at her work. Do you miss it? Being married, I mean. I miss the security of it. Having someone to share expenses with, having plans for the future. Jasmine cleaned her brushes absently. But I don't miss Tyler specifically. Does that make me a terrible person? It makes you honest. There's a difference between missing a person and missing the idea of having a person. What about you? Do you miss your ex-wife? Robert was quiet for a long moment. I miss who I thought she was. I miss the relationship I thought we had. But the real her? The woman who lied to me for years and took half my assets? No, I don't miss her at all. Jasmine sat down on the window seat, suddenly feeling the weight of everything that had happened. Do you think we're damaged? Too damaged for healthy relationships. I think we're experienced. We know what we won't tolerate anymore. Robert looked at her carefully. Are you thinking about dating again? The question hung between them, loaded with implications they hadn't addressed directly. Jasmine felt her heart speed up. I don't know. Maybe someday. She met his eyes. Are you? I've been thinking about it more lately. Robert's voice was quieter than usual. There's someone I've become interested in, but the timing is complicated. Jasmine felt a stab of something that might have been jealousy. Complicated how? She's still technically married even though she's in the middle of a divorce. And she's Tyler's ex-wife, which makes me Tyler's uncle. Robert smiled ruefully. It's not exactly a simple situation. Jasmine's breath caught. Robert? I know it's complicated. I know the timing isn't ideal. But Jasmine, these past few months of getting to know you have been the brightest part of my year. He stood up and moved closer to the window seat. I don't want to pressure you or make things awkward between us. But I also don't want to pretend I don't have feelings for you. Jasmine stared at him, her mind racing. She had been developing feelings for Robert too, but she had convinced herself it was just gratitude for his friendship during a difficult time. The family will hate this, she said finally. Some of them might. Others might be happy that we found each other. Robert sat down beside her on the window seat. Patricia already thinks you're too good for Tyler. She told me at the barbecue that she hoped you'd find someone who appreciates you. She said that. She said that. Robert reached over and took her hand. Jasmine, I'm not asking you to make any decisions right now. I just wanted you to know how I feel. When you're ready, if you're ever ready, I'd like the chance to show you what it feels like to be with someone who thinks you're remarkable. Jasmine looked down at their joined hands. Robert's touch felt different from Tyler's. Warmer, steadier, more respectful. Tyler had always grabbed her hand possessively, like he was claiming ownership. Robert held her hand like he was offering support. I care about you too, she admitted. More than I should probably. There's no should about feelings, Jasmine. They just are. But what if we ruin our friendship? What if it doesn't work out and we lose what we have? Then we'll deal with that if it happens. But what if we don't try and spend the rest of our lives wondering what might have been? Robert squeezed her hand gently. I've spent too many years playing it safe, Jasmine. I don't want to do that anymore. Jasmine thought about what he had said earlier about taking herself seriously as an artist. Maybe the same logic applied to taking herself seriously as a woman who deserved to be loved completely. My divorce should be final in a month, she said. I know. And Tyler is going to lose his mind when he finds out. Probably. And some people are going to think we started this before my marriage ended. Some people are going to think whatever they want to think regardless of the truth. Robert turned to face her more fully. The only opinions that matter are ours. Jasmine looked into his eyes, seeing patience and kindness and something deeper that made her pulse quicken. When was the last time a man had looked at her like she was precious instead of convenient? I'm scared, she admitted. Of what? Of trusting someone again. Of getting hurt again. Of making another mistake. She took a shaky breath. Of not being enough. Jasmine. Robert's voice was firm. You are more than enough. You're intelligent and talented and beautiful and strong. Any man would be lucky to earn your trust. Even with all my baggage? Your experiences aren't baggage. They're wisdom. They're part of what makes you who you are. Robert smiled. Besides, I have plenty of my own experiences. We can be wise together. Despite her fears, Jasmine found herself smiling back. When you put it like that. Is that a yes to dinner tomorrow night? Somewhere nice as a real date this time. Jasmine felt a flutter of excitement mixed with terror. Yes. But Robert, I need to take this slowly. I'm not ready for anything serious yet. Slow is perfect. We have all the time in the world. Robert stood up and kissed her forehead gently. Thank you for trusting me with this, Jasmine. I promise I won't take it lightly. After he left, Jasmine sat in her studio looking at her paintings and thinking about trust and timing and the difference between settling and choosing. For 8 years she had settled for Tyler's version of love, accepting crumbs of attention and affection because she didn't think she deserved more. But Robert made her feel like she deserved everything. He made her feel like she was worth fighting for, worth waiting for, worth celebrating. Maybe it was time to stop playing it safe and start living like she believed she was worth it. That night, she called Nicole to tell her about Robert. Finally, Nicole exclaimed. I was wondering when you two were going to figure it out. You knew. Honey, everyone could see the way he looks at you. And the way you light up when you talk about him. Nicole's voice was warm with affection. I'm happy for you, Jasmine. You deserve someone who sees how amazing you are. It feels too good to be true. Maybe that's because you've been settling for too little for too long. Maybe this is what it's supposed to feel like when it's right. After they hung up, Jasmine looked at herself in the bathroom mirror. Her face was flushed with excitement and possibility. She looked like a woman who was falling in love, and for the first time in her adult life, that didn't scare her. It thrilled her. 6 months later, Jasmine's life had transformed in ways she couldn't have imagined. Her divorce was final, her art career was taking off, and her relationship with Robert had deepened into something beautiful and steady. They had been taking it slow, just as she had requested, but the foundation they were building felt solid in a way her marriage to Tyler never had. I can't believe how many people are here, Jasmine said, looking around the gallery at the crowd admiring her first solo art show. I never expected this kind of turnout. I did, Robert said, slipping his arm around her waist. Your work speaks to people, Jasmine. Look at that couple over there, completely absorbed in your landscape series. And that woman has been staring at your abstract piece for 20 minutes. Jasmine watched the gallery visitors move through the space, stopping to read the descriptions beside each painting, some taking notes, others clearly moved by what they were seeing. 5 paintings had already sold, including the abstract landscape Robert had admired in her studio. Miss Martinez? A well-dressed woman approached with a business card in hand. I'm Susan Wright from the Cultural Arts Council. We'd love to discuss commissioning a piece for the new municipal building lobby. After Susan left, Jasmine turned to Robert with wide eyes. Did that really just happen? That really just happened. You're officially a professional artist now. Robert kissed her temple. How does it feel? Terrifying and amazing at the same time. Jasmine laughed, still hardly believing this was her life. A year ago, I was Tyler's wife who did a little art on the side. Now I'm Jasmine Martinez, professional artist. You were always Jasmine Martinez, professional artist. You just needed the world to catch up. The opening reception continued for another 2 hours, with more sales and more interest than Jasmine had dared to hope for. When the last visitor left, she and Robert helped Elena pack up the remaining pieces. This is just the beginning, Elena said as they carried paintings to Jasmine's car. Word is going to spread about tonight. You're going to need a bigger studio soon. One step at a time, Jasmine said, but she was already mentally calculating how she could convert the garage into a larger workspace. Speaking of steps, Robert said as they drove toward the restaurant where they had planned to celebrate, there's something I want to discuss with you. That sounds ominous. Not ominous. Important. Robert pulled into the parking lot of Chez Laurent, the French restaurant where they had had their first official date. I made us a reservation at our place. Our place. Jasmine smiled. I like the sound of that. Inside, they were seated at the same corner table where they had nervously navigated their first romantic dinner 8 months ago. Tonight felt different though, comfortable and established like they belonged together. I have a confession, Robert said after they had ordered. I didn't bring you here just to celebrate your show. No. I brought you here because this is where I first realized I was falling in love with you. Robert reached across the table and took her hand. Do you remember what you said that night? Jasmine thought back to their first date, when everything had felt so uncertain and fragile. I said I was scared of trusting someone again. And I said we had all the time in the world. Robert's thumb traced circles on her palm. Well, it's been 8 months and I'm more in love with you now than I was then. You've shown me what it means to be with someone who makes me want to be better, not different. Someone who celebrates my dreams instead of tolerating them. Robert. Jasmine's heart was starting to race. I know we said we'd take things slow and we have. But Jasmine, I don't want to spend the rest of my life taking things slow with you. I want to spend it building something amazing together. Robert stood up from his chair and moved to kneel beside the table. Jasmine's breath caught as he pulled a small velvet box from his jacket pocket. Jasmine Martinez, will you marry me? The restaurant went quiet around them, other diners turning to watch. Jasmine stared at the ring, a vintage emerald-cut diamond surrounded by smaller stones, elegant and timeless without being ostentatious. It's beautiful, she whispered. It was my grandmother's. She left it to me with instructions to give it to someone who would love it as much as she did. Robert opened the box fully. I think she would have loved you, Jasmine. You have the same strength and grace she did. Tears were streaming down Jasmine's face now. Yes. Yes, of course I'll marry you. The restaurant erupted in applause as Robert slipped the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, like it had been waiting for her all along. I love you, Robert said, standing to kiss her. I love your art, I love your courage, I love the way you've rebuilt your life into something beautiful. I love you too. Jasmine looked down at the ring, so different from her grandmother's ring that Tyler had given away. This ring represented choice and commitment and a future built on mutual respect. But Robert, what about your family? What about Tyler? Tyler lost the right to have an opinion about your life when he chose Rebecca over you. Robert sat back down but kept hold of her hand. As for the family, the ones who matter will be happy for us. The ones who aren't happy don't matter. Tyler is going to lose his mind. Let him. His reaction will say everything about his character and nothing about ours. Robert smiled. Besides, I have it on good authority that Patricia is going to be thrilled. She's been asking me when I was going to make an honest woman of you. Jasmine laughed through her tears. She did not say that. She absolutely did. Last Sunday after church, she pulled me aside and told me that if I let you get away, she would disown me herself. They spent the rest of dinner making plans and sharing dreams. Robert wanted a small ceremony, something intimate with just close friends and family. Jasmine wanted something outdoors, maybe in the botanical gardens where they had spent so many Sunday afternoons walking and talking. There's one more thing, Robert said as they walked to their cars. I found a space for the new restaurant. It's perfect, right in the arts district downtown. I was hoping you might consider doing the interior artwork for it. You want me to design art for your restaurant? I want us to build something together. My food, your art, our vision. Robert unlocked her car door. We make a good team, Jasmine. In everything. Driving home, Jasmine kept glancing at the ring on her finger. It caught the street lights and threw sparkles across the dashboard, a constant reminder that this wasn't a dream. Robert Henderson, Tyler's uncle, had just asked her to marry him and she had said yes. Part of her felt guilty about how this would look to Tyler's family, but a larger part of her felt triumphant. Tyler had thrown away 8 years of marriage for his mistress, had humiliated her publicly and tried to leave her with nothing. Now she was marrying his uncle, a man who loved and respected her completely. It wasn't revenge exactly. It was justice. It was the universe's way of showing her that sometimes when one door closes, a better one opens. When she pulled into her driveway, she noticed a car she didn't recognize parked across the street. As she got out of her car, Tyler emerged from the driver's seat. We need to talk, he said, walking toward her. Jasmine's good mood evaporated. What are you doing here, Tyler? I heard about your art show. Congratulations. His tone was bitter. I also heard you've been spending time with my uncle. What I do with my time is none of your business anymore. It is when you're embarrassing my family. Tyler stopped a few feet away from her. Do you have any idea how this looks? Dating my uncle while we were still married? We weren't dating while we were married. We've been friends since the divorce was filed, and we didn't start dating until after it was final. Jasmine crossed her arms. Unlike some people, we waited until I was actually free. Tyler's face flushed. This is revenge, isn't it? You're doing this to get back at me. Jasmine looked at him, this man who had controlled so much of her life for so long, and realized he looked smaller than she remembered. Weaker. Less significant. Tyler, not everything is about you. I'm marrying Robert because I love him and he loves me. Because he treats me like an equal partner. Because he celebrates my success instead of being threatened by it. She held up her left hand, letting the engagement ring catch the porch light. Robert just proposed and I said yes. Tyler stared at the ring, his mouth opening and closing like a fish. You can't be serious. I'm completely serious. We're getting married in the spring. Jasmine, this is insane. He's my uncle. You'll be my aunt. Do you understand how weird that is? What's weird is you showing up at my house to tell me who I can and can't marry. Jasmine turned toward her front door. Good night, Tyler. This isn't over, Tyler called after her. Jasmine turned back with a smile that was all sweetness and steel. Yes, Tyler. It is over. It's been over for months. The only person who doesn't seem to realize that is you. Inside, she locked the door and leaned against it, her heart pounding. But underneath the adrenaline, she felt something else: satisfaction. For the first time since their marriage ended, she had faced Tyler as an equal. Not as his victim or his ex-wife, but as a woman who had moved on to something better. She looked down at Robert's ring and smiled. Tomorrow she would call Patricia and ask for her blessing. She would start planning a wedding with a man who loved her completely. She would continue building a life that was entirely her own choice. But tonight, she was going to celebrate the fact that Tyler Henderson no longer had any power over her happiness. Planning a wedding while navigating family drama turned out to be more complicated than Jasmine had anticipated. Patricia Henderson had indeed been thrilled about the engagement, immediately offering to host the rehearsal dinner and help with whatever arrangements needed to be made. But not everyone in Tyler's family was as supportive. I think it's wonderful that you and Robert found each other, Patricia said over tea in her pristine living room. After what you both went through with your divorces, you deserve happiness. Thank you, Patricia. That means everything to me. Jasmine stirred honey into her cup, still adjusting to being welcomed so warmly by her ex-husband's mother. I was worried about how the family would react. Honestly, most of us saw this coming months ago. Patricia smiled knowingly. The way Robert looked at you at the barbecue, the way you two talked to each other like you'd known each other for years. It was obvious to everyone except maybe you two. Tyler doesn't seem to think it's obvious. He's been calling family members, trying to turn them against us. Patricia's expression hardened. Tyler needs to focus on his own life and stop trying to control yours. What he did to you was inexcusable, Jasmine. Robert is twice the man Tyler ever was. Before Jasmine could respond, the front door opened and Harold Henderson walked in, looking tired and frustrated. Patricia, we need to talk about Tyler, he said, then stopped when he saw Jasmine. Oh, hello, dear. Congratulations on your engagement. Thank you, Harold. Jasmine set down her teacup. I should probably go. I have a dress fitting this afternoon. Nonsense, stay. This concerns you too. Harold sat down heavily in his recliner. Tyler came by the office today demanding that I talk sense into Robert. He seems to think this engagement is some kind of family betrayal. What did you tell him? Patricia asked. I told him that Robert is a grown man who can marry whoever he chooses, and that Tyler lost any right to have an opinion about Jasmine's life when he decided to cheat on her. Harold looked directly at Jasmine. I also told him that if he keeps harassing you or Robert, he'll have to deal with me. Jasmine felt a wave of gratitude. Thank you, Harold. I know this puts you in a difficult position. The only person making this difficult is Tyler. He made his choices and now he has to live with the consequences. Harold's voice was firm. You and Robert have my full support. The dress fitting went better than expected. Jasmine had chosen a simple but elegant ivory dress, tea-length with delicate lace sleeves. It was nothing like the elaborate gown she had worn to marry Tyler, and that felt right. This wedding was about love and commitment, not show and tradition. You look beautiful, said Nicole, who had come along for moral support. Robert is going to lose his mind when he sees you in this. It doesn't feel too simple? It feels like you. Elegant and authentic and completely gorgeous. Nicole adjusted the dress's belt. How are you doing with all the family drama? Better than I expected. Patricia and Harold are being wonderful, and most of Robert's generation seems supportive. It's mainly Tyler and a few of his cousins who are upset. Let them be upset. They'll get over it or they won't, but either way it's not your problem. That evening, Jasmine met Robert at the restaurant space he had leased. The renovation was nearly complete, and she could see their vision coming together. Her artwork would be the perfect complement to his sophisticated but approachable menu. The murals are going to look amazing in here, Robert said, gesturing to the walls where Jasmine had planned a series of paintings inspired by local landscapes. Have I mentioned lately that you're incredibly talented? Only every day. Jasmine smiled and moved into his arms. How was your day? Any more family drama? Tyler called me this morning, actually. He wanted to meet for coffee to discuss the situation. Please tell me you said no. I said yes. Jasmine pulled back to look at him. Robert, why would you do that? Because I want to clear the air. Tyler is going to be my nephew-in-law whether he likes it or not. We're going to see each other at family gatherings for the rest of our lives. Robert tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. I'd rather deal with this head-on than let it fester. What if he tries to cause trouble? Then he tries to cause trouble. But Jasmine, I'm not going to let Tyler's anger dictate how we live our lives. We have nothing to be ashamed of. They spent the next hour walking through the restaurant space, finalizing plans for the artwork and discussing the opening timeline. Robert wanted to debut the restaurant in the fall, which would give Jasmine time to complete the commission pieces while still maintaining her growing art practice. I never thought I'd be painting for a living, she said as they locked up and headed to their cars. 2 years ago, I was Tyler's wife who did a little art on the side. Now I'm booked solid for the next 6 months. You were always an artist, Jasmine. Tyler just convinced you to think small. Robert opened her car door. I love watching you think big again. I love you, she said, standing on her toes to kiss him. Thank you for believing in me. Thank you for letting me love you. The next morning, Jasmine was in her studio working on sketches for the restaurant murals when her phone rang. The caller ID showed Tyler's name, but she almost didn't answer. Their last conversation had been unpleasant, and she didn't have the energy for another confrontation. Hello, Tyler. Jasmine, I need to see you. Please. It's important. Something in his tone made her pause. What's wrong? Can you meet me at the coffee shop on Main Street? The one where you and Robert used to meet. Tyler, I don't think. Please. I'm not going to cause a scene or try to change your mind about anything. I just need to talk to you. Against her better judgment, Jasmine agreed. An hour later, she found Tyler sitting at a corner table, looking worse than she had seen him since their divorce was finalized. His clothes were wrinkled, he needed a shave, and there were dark circles under his eyes. You look terrible, she said, sitting down across from him. Rebecca left me. Jasmine felt a complicated mix of emotions. When? Last week. She said she was tired of waiting for me to get my life together. Tyler laughed bitterly. Apparently, dating a divorced man with financial problems wasn't as exciting as she thought it would be. I'm sorry, Tyler. I know that must hurt. Do you? Are you really sorry, or are you secretly happy that I got what I deserved? Jasmine considered the question honestly. Both, I think. I'm sorry you're hurting because I don't wish pain on anyone. But I'm not sorry that your affair didn't turn into the fairy tale you thought it would be. Tyler nodded like he had expected that answer. She took your grandmother's ring with her. Jasmine's stomach dropped. What? When she left, she took everything I had given her, including the ring. She said it was payment for the time she wasted on me. Tyler, that ring isn't hers to take. It's mine. The court order. I know. My lawyer is trying to track her down, but she moved out of state. Her phone is disconnected. Tyler ran his hands through his hair. Jasmine, I am so sorry. I know how much that ring meant to you. Jasmine felt tears threatening. Her grandmother's ring, the last tangible connection to the women who had come before her, was gone. Possibly forever. Why are you telling me this? She asked. Because you deserve to know. And because I needed to apologize properly this time. Tyler leaned forward. I was a terrible husband to you, Jasmine. I took you for granted, I made you feel small, and then I betrayed you in the worst possible way. You didn't deserve any of that. No, I didn't. I've been angry about you and Robert, but the truth is I'm jealous. Not because I want you back, but because he gets to love the woman I was too stupid to appreciate. Tyler's voice was quiet. You're glowing, Jasmine. You look happier than I ever saw you when we were married. Jasmine didn't know what to say to that. I'm not here to ask for forgiveness or to try to stop your wedding. I'm here to tell you that you made the right choice. Robert is a good man, and he loves you the way you should be loved. Tyler stood up. I hope you'll be happy together. As Tyler walked away, Jasmine sat in the coffee shop and cried. Not for her marriage or for Tyler, but for her grandmother's ring. The one piece of her family history that she had treasured above everything else was gone, lost to Tyler's poor choices and Rebecca's greed. But as she drove home, she realized something important. The ring was gone, but the love it represented wasn't. Her grandmother's legacy wasn't a piece of jewelry, it was the strength and grace she had passed down through generations of women. That lived in Jasmine now, in the way she had rebuilt her life and chosen love over bitterness. Robert's ring was on her finger now, representing a different kind of love but an equally powerful one. A love based on choice and respect and partnership. Maybe that was enough. Maybe that was everything. That evening, she told Robert about her conversation with Tyler and the news about the ring. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart," he said, holding her close. "I know how much that ring meant to you." "It's gone," she said simply. "But I'm still here. We're still here. That's what matters. Are you sure you're okay?" Jasmine looked down at Robert's grandmother's ring, thinking about the different kinds of legacy that could be passed down. "I'm sad about the ring, but I'm not broken by it. Tyler can't take anything else from me because everything that matters is right here." They spent the evening finalizing their wedding plans, choosing flowers and music and making lists of guests. It would be a small ceremony, maybe 50 people, in the botanical gardens on a Saturday afternoon in May. Simple and beautiful and completely theirs. 3 weeks later, the invitations went out. Most of the responses were enthusiastic congratulations. A few were polite declines from Tyler's immediate family members who felt caught in the middle. And one was a nasty note from Tyler's cousin Mark, calling Jasmine a gold-digging homewrecker. "Some people are going to think what they're going to think," Robert said, tossing Mark's note in the trash. "The people who matter know the truth." "I know. It just stings a little." "Of course it does. You're not made of stone." Robert pulled her into his arms. "But Jasmine, look at what we've built together. Look at your art career, look at this relationship, look at the life you've created. You've turned Tyler's betrayal into something beautiful. We've turned it into something beautiful. We have. And in 6 weeks, we're going to make it official." 6 weeks. In 6 weeks, she would be Mrs. Robert Henderson, Tyler's aunt by marriage. The thought should have felt weird, but instead it felt like justice. Like the best possible ending to a story that had started with betrayal and humiliation. Tyler had given her grandmother's ring to his mistress, thinking he could erase their marriage and start fresh with someone new. Instead, he had lost everything, and Jasmine had found something better than she had ever dreamed possible. Sometimes the best revenge was simply living well. The morning of Jasmine's wedding dawned clear and bright, with a kind of perfect spring weather that felt like a blessing. She woke up in the guest room at Patricia's house, where she had spent the night according to tradition, and immediately felt a sense of calm that surprised her. On her wedding day with Tyler, she had been nervous and anxious, worried about every detail being perfect. Today she felt peaceful. Ready. Like everything in her life had been leading to this moment. "Good morning, beautiful bride," Nicole said, coming in with a tray of coffee and pastries. "How are you feeling?" "Happy," Jasmine said, sitting up in bed. "Really, genuinely happy. No last-minute nerves?" "None." "Is that weird?" Nicole sat down on the edge of the bed and smiled. "It's perfect. It means you're marrying the right person for the right reasons." They spent the morning getting ready in Patricia's sunny guest room, doing makeup and hair and helping Jasmine into her dress. Patricia fluttered in and out, bringing flowers and taking pictures and generally being the supportive mother-in-law that Jasmine had always hoped for. "Robert is not allowed to see you yet," Patricia announced as she adjusted Jasmine's veil. "But he wanted me to give you this." She handed Jasmine a small wrapped box with a note attached. In Robert's familiar handwriting it said, "For my beautiful bride." Something new to go with something borrowed and something blue. Inside the box was a delicate necklace with a small pendant in the shape of a paintbrush, encrusted with tiny diamonds. "Oh my God," Jasmine breathed. "It's perfect." "He had it custom-made," Patricia said, fastening the necklace around Jasmine's neck. "He said he wanted you to have something that represented your art, something that was uniquely yours." Jasmine touched the pendant, thinking about Tyler's practical gifts compared to Robert's thoughtful gestures. Robert saw her completely and loved all the parts Tyler had never valued. "Are you ready?" Nicole asked, adjusting the skirt of Jasmine's dress one final time. Jasmine looked at herself in the full-length mirror. The ivory dress was simple but elegant, the tea-length skirt perfect for an outdoor ceremony. The paintbrush necklace caught the light and reminded her of everything she had accomplished in the past year. Robert's engagement ring sparkled on her finger, a symbol of love and respect and partnership. She looked like a woman who knew exactly what she wanted and had the courage to choose it. "I'm ready." The botanical gardens were transformed into something magical. White chairs were arranged in neat rows among the flowering trees, with an archway of roses and greenery marking where Jasmine and Robert would exchange vows. The string quartet was playing softly as guests took their seats. "Wow," Nicole said as they arrived. "This is gorgeous." Jasmine looked around at the setting she and Robert had chosen together. It was intimate and natural, reflecting their shared love of beauty and simplicity. Nothing like the formal church ceremony she had endured with Tyler. "Places everyone," said the wedding coordinator. "We're ready to begin." Jasmine's father walked her down the aisle to Pachelbel's canon, the same piece that had played at her parents' wedding 30 years ago. But this time she wasn't nervous about tripping or forgetting her vows. She was focused entirely on Robert, who was waiting for her at the altar with tears in his eyes and a smile that lit up his entire face. "You're beautiful," he whispered as her father placed her hand in his. "So are you." The ceremony was everything Jasmine had dreamed of. The officiant spoke about love as a choice, about partnership and respect and the courage to be vulnerable with another person. When it came time for vows, Robert went first. "Jasmine, a year ago I thought my chance at real love had passed me by. I thought I was too old, too cynical, too damaged to believe in happily ever after." His voice was steady but emotional. "Then you walked into my life and reminded me that love isn't about finding someone perfect. It's about finding someone perfect for you." He paused, looking directly into her eyes. "You inspire me every day with your talent, your strength, and your capacity to turn pain into beauty. I promise to support your dreams, to celebrate your successes, and to love you exactly as you are. I promise to be your partner in everything, your biggest fan, and your safe harbor when life gets stormy." Jasmine was crying now, but they were happy tears. When it was her turn, she spoke from her heart without looking at the notes she had prepared. "Robert, you saved me from settling for less than I deserved. You showed me what it feels like to be truly seen and valued and loved completely." Her voice grew stronger with each word. "You believed in my art when I had forgotten how to believe in it myself. You made me remember that I'm allowed to take up space, to have dreams, to expect to be treated with respect and kindness." She took a breath, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what she was promising. "I promise to love you with everything I have, to support your dreams as fiercely as you support mine, and to choose you every day for the rest of our lives. I promise to paint you a world full of color and beauty, and to let you love me the way I deserve to be loved." When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Robert kissed her with such joy and tenderness that the small crowd erupted in applause and cheers. "Ladies and gentlemen," the officiant announced, "I present to you Mr. and Mrs. Robert Henderson." The reception was held in the garden's pavilion, with round tables decorated with simple centerpieces of local flowers and candles. Jasmine and Robert's first dance was to "At Last" by Etta James, and as they swayed together, Jasmine felt like the lyrics had been written for this moment. "Mrs. Henderson," Robert murmured in her ear. "I like the sound of that." "So do I." The evening passed in a blur of congratulations, dancing, and happiness. Patricia and Harold toasted the couple with champagne and stories about how obvious their connection had been from the beginning. Nicole gave a maid of honor speech that had everyone laughing and crying. Even some of Tyler's extended family who had been skeptical about the marriage seemed to be genuinely enjoying themselves. "They make a beautiful couple," Jasmine overheard Tyler's Aunt Susan saying to her husband. "I haven't seen Robert this happy in years." "And Jasmine looks radiant," he replied. "Much happier than she ever did with Tyler." As the evening wound down, Jasmine was saying goodbye to guests when she noticed a commotion near the entrance to the pavilion. Through the crowd, she saw Tyler walking toward the reception area, looking determined and slightly drunk. "Oh no," Nicole said, following her gaze. "What is he doing here?" Before Jasmine could answer, Tyler had pushed through the crowd and was standing in front of the head table where she and Robert sat. "I need to talk to you," Tyler said loudly, his words slightly slurred. The conversations around them died as people turned to stare. Robert stood up slowly, his face calm but alert. "Tyler, this isn't the time or place." "When is the time and place?" "You won't return my calls, my family won't talk to me, and now you're married to my ex-wife." Tyler swayed slightly. "Do you have any idea how this looks?" "It looks like two people who found love and had the courage to choose it," Patricia said sharply, appearing beside them. "Tyler, you need to leave. Now." "Not until I say what I came to say." Tyler turned back to Jasmine, his eyes wild with emotion. "This is all wrong, Jasmine. You think you love him, but you're just using him to get back at me." "Tyler, stop," Jasmine said, standing up. "You're embarrassing yourself." "I'm embarrassing myself? You married my uncle." "My uncle." Tyler's voice was getting louder, and more guests were turning to watch the scene unfold. "How is that not completely insane?" "What's insane is you showing up at my wedding uninvited to cause a scene," Jasmine replied, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Robert and I love each other. This has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with me. You were my wife." "Was," Robert said firmly, stepping closer to Tyler. "She was your wife until you decided to cheat on her and throw away your marriage. She's my wife now, and I'm not going to let you ruin her wedding day." "Your wife," Tyler laughed bitterly. Do you know what she was like when we were married? Cold, distant, always criticizing everything I did. You think you got some prize, but you got my leftovers. The words hit Jasmine like a physical blow, but before she could respond, Robert moved between them. That's enough. Robert's voice was dangerous now. Jasmine is not leftovers, Tyler. She's the woman you were too stupid to appreciate. She's brilliant and talented and beautiful, and the fact that you couldn't see that says everything about your character and nothing about hers. You want to know why I cheated? Tyler was clearly spiraling now. Because living with her was like living with a roommate. No passion, no excitement, just boring routine and constant judgment. I wasn't judging you, Tyler, Jasmine said quietly, but her voice carried in the sudden silence. I was waiting for you to love me the way I deserve to be loved. I was waiting for you to see me as more than just a convenient wife who made your life easier. I did love you. No, you didn't. You loved the idea of having a wife. You loved having someone to handle the details of your life so you could focus on what mattered to you. Jasmine felt the truth of her words in her bones. But you never loved me, Tyler. If you had, you couldn't have betrayed me the way you did. Tyler stared at her, seeming to really see her for the first time all evening. In her wedding dress, surrounded by people who loved and supported her, married to a man who treated her like she was precious, Jasmine looked nothing like the woman he had taken for granted. I made a mistake, he said, his voice breaking. Rebecca was a mistake. Losing you was the biggest mistake of my life. Yes, it was, Jasmine agreed. But Tyler, you didn't lose me. You threw me away. There's a difference. I want you back, Tyler said desperately. I know I don't deserve it, but I want another chance. We can go to counseling, we can start over. Tyler, Jasmine said gently but firmly, I don't want you back. I never wanted you back, not even when I first found out about Rebecca. I want the life I have now, with the man who loves me completely. She took Robert's hand and looked around at their wedding guests, all of whom were watching this scene with a mixture of fascination and horror. Robert makes me feel beautiful and valued and respected every single day. He celebrates my success instead of being threatened by it. He supports my dreams instead of asking me to make them smaller. Jasmine's voice grew stronger. I was settling when I was married to you, Tyler. I'm not settling anymore. Tyler looked between Jasmine and Robert, reality finally sinking in. You really don't want me back. I really don't. But we were together for 10 years. That has to count for something. It counts as a learning experience, Jasmine said. You taught me what I won't accept in a relationship. Robert is teaching me what I should expect. Tyler stood there for another moment, swaying slightly, looking lost and defeated. Finally, Harold appeared beside him. Come on, son, Harold said firmly but not unkindly. It's time to go home. As Harold led Tyler away, the pavilion slowly returned to normal. Conversations resumed, the band started playing again, and guests returned to celebrating. But Jasmine stood frozen, processing what had just happened. Are you okay? Robert asked, his arm around her waist. I think so. Jasmine looked around at their friends and family, all of whom seemed to be pretending the last 10 minutes hadn't happened. Is it terrible that I feel sorry for him? It's not terrible. It's compassionate. But Jasmine, you don't owe Tyler anything. Not your guilt, not your sympathy, and certainly not your life. I know. She paused, trying to find the words. I think he finally realized what he lost. But it's too late. Much too late, Robert agreed. Are you ready to get out of here? Start our honeymoon? Jasmine looked around one more time at their beautiful wedding reception, at the faces of the people who loved them, at the life they had built together despite the complications. I'm ready. They left the reception hand in hand, Jasmine's dress trailing behind her as they walked toward their future. Behind them, the party continued without them, guests toasting their happiness and love. Tomorrow they would fly to Italy for 2 weeks of art museums and beautiful landscapes and each other. But tonight, they were going home to their house, to the life they had chosen together, to the love that had grown from friendship and respect into something unshakable. Tyler had gotten his dramatic scene, his moment to try to reclaim what he had thrown away. But all he had accomplished was proving exactly why Jasmine had been right to move on. Some mistakes couldn't be undone. Some chances couldn't be taken twice. And some women, once they learned their worth, would never again settle for less than they deserved. 6 months after the wedding, Jasmine stood in the spacious new studio she and Robert had built behind their house, putting the finishing touches on a painting that would be featured in a gallery show in New York. The morning light streamed through the large windows, illuminating canvases that represented not just her artistic growth, but her complete transformation from Tyler's accommodating ex-wife to a confident, successful woman who knew her own worth. "The New York Times wants to do a feature on you," Robert said, appearing in the doorway with coffee and the morning paper. "Something about Southern artists making waves in the contemporary scene." "Are you serious?" Jasmine set down her brush and turned to face him, still amazed by how different her life looked now. "Dead serious. They saw your work at the gallery in Atlanta and want to do a whole spread." Robert handed her the coffee and kissed her cheek. "My wife, the famous artist." "I'm hardly famous. 5 sold-out shows in 8 months says otherwise." Robert gestured around the studio, which was filled with completed paintings and works in progress. "Face it, sweetheart. You're the real deal." Jasmine looked around her studio, thinking about the journey that had brought her here. A year and a half ago, she had been a part-time graphic designer married to a man who saw her art as a hobby. Now she was a full-time professional artist with gallery representation in 3 cities and more commissions than she could handle. "I got a call from Elena yesterday," she said, moving into Robert's arms. "She wants me to teach a workshop for women re-entering the art world after major life changes." "That's perfect for you. You're living proof that it's never too late to start over. Or to start, period." Jasmine smiled up at him. "I never really started before. I was always waiting for permission, waiting for the right time, waiting for someone else to believe in me first. And now I know that I'm the only permission I need." They walked back to the house together, past the garden where they had been married and through the kitchen that had become the heart of their home. Robert's restaurant had opened to rave reviews, featuring not just his innovative menu but also Jasmine's artwork throughout the dining room. They had become a true partnership, supporting each other's dreams while building something beautiful together. "I have news too," Robert said as they settled at the breakfast table with the newspaper. "The food critic from the city paper wants to do a feature on the restaurant. Apparently he's fascinated by the concept of combining fine dining with local art." "Our concept," Jasmine corrected. "This was always a team effort." "Our concept," Robert agreed, reaching across the table to take her hand. "Have I mentioned lately that I love being married to you?" "Only every day." Their peaceful morning was interrupted by the ringing of Jasmine's phone. She glanced at the caller ID and saw Patricia's name. "Good morning, Patricia." "Jasmine, dear, I have some news about Tyler that I thought you should know." Jasmine felt her stomach tighten slightly. Even now, months after the wedding disaster, Tyler's name could still make her feel unsettled. "What's going on?" "He filed for bankruptcy yesterday. Lost his job 6 weeks ago, and apparently he's been struggling financially for months." Patricia's tone was matter-of-fact but not unsympathetic. "Harold thought you should know, given the divorce settlement." Jasmine processed this information. "Is this going to affect the alimony payments?" "Your lawyer will have to look into it, but probably. If Tyler has no assets and no income, there's nothing to garnish." After Patricia hung up, Jasmine sat quietly for a moment, trying to understand her own reaction to the news. She should feel vindicated. Tyler had thrown away their marriage for Rebecca, who had left him the moment his finances became unstable. He had tried to hide assets during their divorce, only to lose everything anyway. In a way it was perfect justice. But mostly she just felt sad for him. "You okay?" Robert asked, clearly sensing her mood. "Tyler filed for bankruptcy. He's lost everything." Robert raised his eyebrows. "How do you feel about that?" "Sad mostly. And grateful that I'm not there anymore." Jasmine looked around their beautiful kitchen, thinking about the life she and Tyler had shared and how empty it seemed in comparison to what she had now. "When we were married, I would have been terrified. All that financial insecurity would have been my problem too. But now it's not. Now it's not." Jasmine felt a sense of relief she hadn't expected. "I used to worry that I couldn't make it on my own financially. Turns out I'm doing better alone than Tyler is. Better than you ever did with Tyler too."